Well, what's going on? What's going on? We got that one there. That's a little Bassmaster's 13th place. Got this one right here, Bassmaster's 5th place, Lake Murray. And yesterday we talked about this one right here. And so what we're gonna do, what I thought about doing, because hey, what's up? Thank you for joining the channel again. And we had a lot of good response on our little look back, or I don't even know what we're gonna call the series quite yet, but our little look back at past tournaments. Again, we're all kind of cooped up in our house. Can't fish a lot right now. I am getting out a little bit, but just can't really get out a lot. So I thought, what a great opportunity to come to you guys and actually tell you stories about some of these tournaments. And what's neat, I was sitting in my office yesterday when I came up with this, and it was like, okay, these are stories that I think that you guys would enjoy to hear, because there's like little nuggets. There's like little gold nuggets in every one of them. You know, it's like decisions that I made, things that happened. And, you know, you look back at those and I say to myself, like, this is how I got here. I mean, like, it's these trophies right here. It's these events that allowed me to sit here in front of you guys, because it gave me the confidence. It allowed me to win. It allowed me to finish high. And so I want to share these stories with you guys. And so everybody seemed to like them. Hopefully you're enjoying them. And if you haven't hit subscribe quite yet on the channel and you're new to the channel, then smash it. And by the way, not all of our videos are like this in the office. Most of our videos, we're out fishing, doing some crazy stuff. So be sure to scroll through the channel, check out some of the past videos that we've done. We've got a couple really good videos on there, by the way. So anyways, that being said, yesterday we talked about my very first Bassmasters event where I finished 7th place on Lake Okeechobee. That was really an awesome event. Again, kind of the whole beginning of my career. So if you want to see that video, hear that full story, click the link in the description at the end of the video, and that'll take you right to it. But that being said, Bassmasters. You know, I've been fishing Bassmasters, believe it or not, since 1998, but I took a hiatus from fishing Bassmasters and fished the FLW Tour for the next 18 years or so. Now I am back fishing Bassmasters, which I'm so excited about. But I looked at these trophies, and this one right here. Check this out, guys. 5th place, Lake Murray in South Carolina. This was a neat tournament for me. Here's why. I caught a limit every day, and my co-angler at the time caught a limit every day. And this was in September. I believe it was in September. Yes, September 2002, guys. 2002. The fishing at Lake Murray, that particular tournament was terrible. It was one of those tournaments that was like, I don't really know how to catch a fish. We've all been there, right? You go out and you practice, you do what you think you need to do, and at the end of the day, you're like, I don't really know what the heck to do. I've had a lot of those days on the water. And little adjustments, little things, and again, that's what I did in this event. I made a major adjustment, a major gamble. This gamble that I made, this adjustment that I made, allowed me to win $12,000. That's right. I won $12,000 by making this adjustment, and I'm going to talk all about it. So, in practice, first of all, Lake Murray back then had a lot of hydrilla out in the lake, and it used to have a lot of hydrilla everywhere, and it doesn't anymore. But hydrilla back then was prevalent all over the underwater humps and stuff out in the lake, and I'm thinking like, hey, I'm from Florida, I fish hydrilla all the time anyways. I just need to just figure out how to catch these fish in the grass. I'm from Florida. If anybody can figure out how to catch them in the grass, it's me. But the difference is, obviously, it's hydrilla in like 20 foot of water. I mean, the hydrilla at Lake Murray on these humps would grow out to 20 foot deep. So totally different than in Florida, where it's all 5 and 6 feet of water, 3 and 4 or 5 foot of water. So, but I still was like, okay, grass. I'm a grass fisherman. It's hydrilla. I love that. I'm going to figure it out. So I spent my entire practice looking to try to find something special out there in that grass, and I just did not get it done. It was one of those crazy deals where like I went like all day without even catching a keeper. It got to the point in that tournament where I got mad at it, because again, I'm from Florida, I like fishing grass, I'm going to figure out how to catch them. I told myself, I'm not quitting until I figure them out. I'm not quitting until I figure them out. I didn't figure them out. We had down to one last day of practice, and I'm sitting on, like, the tournament started right now, I'm on nothing. And by the way, that's what I tell myself all the time, guys. This is a little tip. As I'm practicing for 3 days or 4 days, however long it is, I kind of tell myself at the end of every day, if the tournament started tomorrow, this is what I would do. This is where I'd go. This is what I would do. And then throughout practice, I keep making adjustments minorly to that plan. So, you know, the next day of practice, I might find a better spot or kind of a different thing. I add things into the rotation. So every day I'm kind of fine tuning my game plan. And that's a little tip that I do that may help you guys. So check it out. But last day of practice, Lake Murray, September 2002, I'm not catching anything. I've been completely defeated by trying to catch bass out there in the grass. So I'm like, I just need to make a run up the river. Like, I need to get away from the grass. I've tried everything. I can't figure it out. Yeah. So it boils down to the last day of practice. And it's to the point now where it's like, I got to figure out something because I'm not on anything out there in the lake. And I remember sitting there looking at the map. I got my map out. And this was back before we even had GPSs really good that had all the different contours and everything on it like the Garmin's do now. But I remember looking at my GPS going, you know, like way up the river. I can run as far up the river as I can. And I remember looking at the map, and the river went way, a Saluda River, I believe. It went way up there, and it weaved around. It was pretty wide at that point. You could see that there was a few contours on the GPS and the map. You could see where, like, the water, there was still kind of a lake, you know, even though it was up the river, it was still kind of lakey. And it got up there, and then it finally bottlenecked down into what I would consider the river, like where it went from a kind of wide, high bluffs, you know, a couple little creeks here and there, big bays, etc., to just like a windy little river. And it was in September, which is hot. You know, that time of the year, the fish are really wanting to be closer to some cooler water and moving water. So I ran up that river, and I remember fishing my way up there. So I'm fishing all of the good looking stuff, you know, rocky points, docks, everything, and I'm not catching them. I'm up the river, and I'm like, man, this isn't working out. And I remember looking across the river over to this do-nothing bank. Like, it's literally flat, no trees, no docks. It's shallow. And I remember looking over there, seeing an egret. Seeing an egret standing there on the bank. And I thought to myself, he must be over there eating bait. So I rolled over there and started casting around, and I saw a bait fish. I saw bait fish like in the water. And I thought, oh my gosh, this little shad. So I grabbed this lure right here. I actually brought some out. This is so cool. This is my little tackle box with all my shad wraps in it. Okay, this is my little lure lock box. But check this out, guys. I still have these lures. This is 2002. Okay, I have lures in this box from when that tournament went down. This Rapala, this shad wrap, I don't even think they make them anymore. It is a broke back, I don't know what you call it, jointed, broke back shad wrap. It's jointed or whatever. That's what I was catching them on, guys. This thing right here, I would throw it up on those shallow, I mean, the water wasn't probably 1.5 feet deep, and, you know, 20 feet off the bank, it was like 4 feet deep. So it was a super flat, do-nothing, featureless bank, but it had a bird on it. It had a bird on it, and that's where the bait was. And so I started throwing this thing, and I caught like a nice fish, nice keeper. And then I started looking around for more of it, and I started kind of developing a pattern on what I called at the time. I remember calling it this. It was kind of funny. I remember calling that pattern the Dumb and Dumber pattern, right? I went to the ugliest looking banks, the flat banks with nothing on them, and I started fishing them, and I started catching fish, guys. And what it was is that those bass were coming out of that river, out of that deeper water, and getting to those shallow bays adjacent to the river channel and pushing the shad up on those shallow, do-nothing flat banks, and they had time to herd them up there, right? Pin them up shallower and shallower and shallower, and then they'd go in there and bust on them. And I started catching those fish, and no one else was on that pattern. No one else was on that pattern, which was so crazy because, you know, we had 200 boats in that tournament. And I remember thinking, like, oh my gosh, I'm on something pretty special. I'm catching fish, I'm doing good, and I thought, well, man, this is all I got. You know, I mean, I spent 2 days in the main lake fishing the grass, nothing was happening, and I finally get up there in the river, and I'm catching some fish in practice, and I'm start running as much as I can. Like, I run all the way, but then I finally get up the river where it necked down and turned into river, and the Dumb and Dumber banks up there weren't quite the same. So it was like September, I think they were drawing the lake down a little bit, and all those fish that probably lived up the river kind of had sucked down to that first deep water, right? It was like the first deep water coming out of the way up the river. and all those fish were congregated. That's where all the bait was, and it was crazy. So the first day of the tournament, I run up there with my co-angler. I remember stopping the boat, nobody around, guys, nobody. And I'm thinking, man, this is gonna be good. And I started catching fish. I think I caught like 20 keepers a day. And it was phenomenal. I don't know what my weights were exactly, but 10 or 12 pounds roughly, or whatever it was. But I remember getting a limit. My partner got a limit, which was awesome. Not very many co-anglers caught limits in that tournament. That's how stingy it was. And I don't remember what place I was the first day or even the second day, but I was in contention the entire time. And I went out on the last day of the tournament. And I remember, it was like a Saturday when the tournament ended. And so there was a lot of local traffic. There was pontoon boats driving around and everything. And I remember there was even some boats in the area fishing just periodically. And I think I was rotating like 5 different places, and I could see them all. If I went down to the very bottom end of where I was fishing on this one little do-nothing little point, and I was fishing there, I could look and see my next 3 or 4 places ahead of me. The next one was a quarter mile, the next one was another quarter mile. And so I could see down through there. And I remember seeing a boat on one of the spots that was up probably 3/4 of a mile. And I remember thinking, well, they're just like pontoon boat. And it was a bigger boat. It was like a pontoon boat. I'm thinking, well, they're not fishing. It's no big deal. And then I saw like a flash. I was like, what is a flash? That's weird. What is that flash? And then I'll start looking, and I can see a guy standing on the front of the boat holding up a bass, and his buddy's standing behind him with his camera taking pictures. And I can see the flash flashing off. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, they are fishing. So I fished that spot a little bit more, and they just sat there. And then I went to the next spot, which was the spot right before that spot, and sat there thinking that they would leave or maybe get leave. And they stayed there the entire time. And I kept watching them one after another, catching nice fish, 2.5, 3 pounders. And man, if I could have got on that spot, I don't know if I could have won the tournament, but it was like, oh my gosh, I need those fish. I mean, they were catching them and they were having fun. And it was just one of those things. I didn't bother the guys, but they caught a half a dozen nice bass off that point, man. I was thinking, like, oh my gosh. And I do remember, it was a funny story. I do remember throwing the Shad Rap. And we've all had that special lure, right? And I had other jointed Shad Raps in my box, but there was one that was just beat up. It was mangled. I mean, I've caught 40 bass on it. So I considered that my lucky Shad Rap, right? Like, I didn't want to lose this thing. I was throwing on like 10-pound line. And I hooked in, guys, check this out. I hooked into a striper, right? I hooked into a striper that was like 30 or 40 pounds. I mean, this thing was gigantic, right? And it's fighting me all over the place, and I'm chasing this thing down because I need to get my lucky crankbait back. So I'm chasing it all over the place, and this takes like 15 minutes of me fighting this fish. It was ridiculous. But I finally get the big striper up beside the boat. I net him in my net, like break the handle on the net, get him in the boat, unhook the striper, let the striper go, got my crankbait back, luckily. And but that was crazy. I mean, I was chasing that thing around everywhere, like wasted 15 or 20 minutes of my day, and I could not lose my lucky one. I don't know which one of these I actually caught them on, to be honest with you. I probably need to look and see which ones have teeth marks on them. I might have maybe lost them. I don't know. I don't know which one it is. These look pretty new. That one looks pretty kind of scratched up a little bit. Maybe it was that one. Might have been that one right there. Or maybe this one right, I bet it was this one right here. This one looks probably the most beat up. That's kind of a cool looking color too. So that's how I caught them, guys. And I finished 5th in the tournament. And I got this trophy right here, which was awesome. And I won $12,000. And this was back when Sitco Bassmasters Tournament Trail. And it was awesome. It was a really, really good experience for me. And again, this was back in 2002. And that's pretty much it. I don't remember what I lost by, but I remember thinking, like, if I'd have had things go a little bit better my way, I had a chance to win the tournament. And that would have been awesome. So that's my story on that. Now, guys, by the way, all these trophies here behind me, especially now, I did ask everyone in the previous video to drop comments down below and let me know what videos you would like to see. And so far, from looking at them, I've noticed a lot of people want to see the Cumberland or hear the Cumberland story. That's the one I won. A lot of people want to hear the story on the Forest Wood Cup, which is this big trophy right here behind me. Awesome story right there. And the other one that everybody wants to hear about is the Pascagoula River win, where I launched, we blasted off out of Mississippi, and I drove my bass boat in the Gulf of Mexico. That's right, the Gulf of Mexico, up to Mobile Bay, and won the tournament, won $125,000. and to become the youngest angler to ever win a big major tour event at the time. So thinking about telling that story. I think that would be a really good one. But nevertheless, we've got some really good ones here. And what I'm going to do is kind of keep this series going, guys. We've got several more, so drop some comments down below if there's a couple events that I did really good in, or maybe one that you would love to hear the story behind it. And that's it. So I really appreciate the support so much. And yeah, Bassmasters, 5th place, Lake Murray. Pretty sweet story right there. So guys, I guess lesson in this one is don't be afraid to adjust. Don't be hard-headed to the point where you don't adjust, right? Even though I love fishing grass, even though I should have found fish in the grass, I couldn't get it done, and I made an adjustment, and I found some new stuff. And so don't be afraid to completely go against the grain and figure out how to win a tournament, because that's what it takes. Versatility, it takes guts, and it takes a few chances along the way. So guys, thank you so much for hanging out. Hopefully all of y'all are staying safe at home. If you're having a chance to get on the water, be safe. Be safe, wash your hands a lot, and just be mindful of others. So appreciate all the support, guys. We will see you later, and thanks, Bassmasters. Bam!